Perfect. All right. So good evening, everyone. My name is Sheree Scott. I am the Member Engagement and Education Coordinator for Partner Colorado Credit Union. We're really excited this evening. We have Jim with us, and he's going to cover all the stuff that you would possibly think about that we need for fraud. Right now, I have everybody, just some logistics. Everyone's muted just so that we can remain not having any background noise. But when we're all done, of course, I will unmute everyone so you can ask any questions. We definitely want to hear from you. And we'll have a chat section that you can put in your questions, anything that you want to ask Jim when we're all done. Obviously, during the interaction that we have, you can put something in there. But when we get to the end, we'll answer everything that's in there. I will also put in my full information so that if you need to get a hold of me, you can. But I'm going to just hand it over to Jim so he can do a little introduction and then we'll get started.
Yeah, sure. Hello. My background, I've done cybersecurity pretty much my whole life. I started, I got my first computer when I was 12 back in 1982, which was at that time young. Now it'd be considered old, I guess. But I started programming almost immediately. By the time I was 16, I was doing development work for corporations. It was just kind of, I just couldn't clearly you'll find I barely have a grasp of the English language, but I could pick up programming languages. It's just easy for some reason. And so I just have programmed my whole life, got really into hacking as a kid, started out hacking the phone systems, really got deep into their systems. And then as I got older and the internet started coming around, I got into hacking the colleges and then corporations and on the internet side. And then as I got into my late teens, early 20s, I realized that what I was doing was possibly illegal, and I probably wouldn't have done so well in prison. So I kind of tried to change my ways. Companies started hiring me to test their security, and they would pay me to hack into whatever they wanted me to steal. I thought that was a crazy job. I was like, okay. And the more success I had, the more companies paid me to do it. And I kept thinking, that would end eventually. And now I'm shockingly 51 years old, and all I've done pretty much my whole life is steal whatever people hire me to steal, either by physically going and stealing it or hacking in and stealing it. So I've got a pretty long, weird career of just stealing stuff. So that's kind of my background.
Well, I'm glad you chose a different direction.
Yeah.
And that you're here with us tonight to inform our members about things they should know about. So let's go ahead and get started.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna ask some questions here. So with the US saying that organizations need to worry about Russian attacks, are credit unions and their members more at risk?
Wow, getting into heavy stuff right out of the gate, right? Yeah, so they did. The US announced that hey, we should all be more diligent right now, especially if you have businesses, big or little. Everybody's kind of supposed to be a little bit more paranoid, and the same with home users. And it was, when they put it out, it was kind of weird because they didn't give any specific details. They just said, everybody be paranoid, Russia's coming after you, and good luck. And that's pretty difficult because you don't really know. So a couple things. First, Russia's rarely going to go after the average person at home. Your average member, Russia's not targeting them specifically. They're going to generally get caught up through accident more than anything else. So the main thing Russia's going after: big corporations, big names, things that are going to get them a lot of publicity. Those are good things to try to go after, or things that will give them more access. A while back, there was a company called SolarWinds. They've now changed their name, but Russia, at least it's believed it was Russia, took over their systems, their network, and instead of putting ransomware or something on for hackers, they actually took over the source code, rechanged it, and then the company didn't know, and these updates were pushed out to all their customers, and then suddenly Russia had access to thousands of corporations all over America, and not even just America, all over the world. Actually, it was huge. And that's the kind of stuff where there's the big risk, because let's say that you're a home user, and let's say you have some sort of Internet of Things device. I've got a smart TV or a smart toaster or a smart whatever. If whoever the manufacturer is gets hacked, and an update is then pushed out to your device, technically speaking, your device has now been compromised. There's nothing you would even be aware of that it's happening. And until somebody discovers it somehow, people or criminals, whoever, could have access to your home network and be on your home network, and you'd never even know it was happening. And that's the kind of stuff that's scary when you're talking about like Russia or China or North Korea or, state-sponsored attacks. It's where they're not targeting one particular person. They'll go after some sort of large organization that in turn could give them access to thousands and thousands of individuals, if not more. So kind of spooky.
That was very scary to start with. Yes, I asked you a very big question to start off with.
It's tough. And the hard thing for
tough.
that one, most of the time I always go like, but if you do this, you're okay. With that one, I mean, like a simple thing. Let's say you do have Internet of Things devices, and the Internet of Things device, just in case anybody doesn't know what that is, that's any of those devices. So if I have like the smart lights, the smart sockets you can plug in, Amazon, the Google Home. I mean, you insert device here. There's in fact, I think they said now there's 22 billion different types of Internet of Things devices, and they expect it to get up to 75 billion by 2025. So there's a lot of that junk out there. So if you have those types of things and you're plugging them in at home, your best thing you can do is keep them off your personal network. So if you have a new Wi-Fi device, so you're at home and you set up your little Wi-Fi device so you don't have to be plugged in, which everybody now generally has a Wi-Fi device in their home. If you look, almost every newer version out there comes with a guest network. So you see on the thing, and it says a little thing, it says, oh, you can have a guest network and give it its own password. Put all of your Internet of Things devices on the guest network, separate from your home network. So now I've got my PC that I do online banking with and that kind of stuff on my regular home network that I set up. And then on the guest, I throw all that other stuff over there. So that way, if that stuff gets hacked, a criminal can't use that to try to attack my personal machine on my home network. They're totally segmented off from each other, and it gives you a little bit of extra security.
That does feel better. I'm glad that we have, woo, ta-da, yes, okay, very good. I like that, wonderful. Okay, so I'm gonna get into some of the stuff that I think we're a little bit more familiar with. I read that phishing attacks are on the rise.
Mhm.
How bad is it?
Is bad an answer? It's not good. I mean, phishing is one of those things where before the pandemic, the actual amount of phishing attacks was on the decline. When the pandemic hit, it went through the roof. I mean, exponentially higher. I forget the numbers were, but it was like 20 or 30% higher than it had ever been, which is massive numbers. And that's basically because, what is it? Idle hands make devil's work. I don't know, something like that. But basically, you have everybody sitting at home, hackers, good people, everybody, they got nothing to do. Let's just go and hack other people. And it just spiked up, and they were using the pandemic for all their things. Well, now it's starting to taper off a little bit and starting to get a little bit better. That said, the actual amount of people falling victim has continued year after year to increase. So even when it was going down before the pandemic, the number of people falling victim was going up. And so you go, well, wait a minute, why would that be? You'd think if less people are being attacked, less people will be falling victim. And it's truly because the actual phishing attacks have gotten way more sophisticated, and they're far more difficult. It used to be like get an email and it'd be like broken English, or it would just be so obvious. And you'd be like, all right, delete. Or it came from like Blockbuster Video, and you're like, I don't think that exists anymore. Delete. Like stuff that you didn't really have to worry about. Now these emails are looking so real. You can't just look at an email and go, oh, by looking at it, I know this one's safe or not. But in people's minds, they still think they have this. They still think that they can look at it and just by reading what it says, figure out if it's okay or not. And it just doesn't work. And that's the problem. And that's why you're seeing so many people still fall victim to this. It's not because they don't know about phishing. It's just because they have an idea that they're going to be able to figure out the real one from the fake one. And oftentimes it's almost impossible.
Will you, just because I think it would be good to know, just quickly tell us what phishing is? I didn't even ask that question. And I know, I think I know what it is, but I think it would be good for us to hear exactly what a phishing attack really means.
Absolutely. So a phishing attack is you receive an email, and there's a million variants, and certain names here, but you'll receive an email from a friend, a coworker, a loved one, a company you do business with, a company you've never heard of, but that's sending you that you need to do something. And in the email, almost in every case, there's either going to be a link for you to click, an attachment for you to open, or a phone number for you to call. It's going to be one of those three things. And the whole idea of phishing is they're trying to trick you into clicking the link over the attachment or dialing the number. And if you do, then depending on where it takes you to, all sorts, the sky's the limit on what bad things can happen. In some cases, they're designed around trying to trick you to provide personal information. In other cases, it's taking you to sites that are trying to put malware on your computer. Sometimes with phone calls, they're trying to trick you again into giving up personal information. And that can be anything from credit card information to passwords to social security number. It could be anything. And that's the whole thing comes down to trying to get through that one email for you to act in whatever way they want so that they can take advantage of you.
Yeah, that makes sense too, right? If it's somebody that that you trust,
Yeah.
it's very easy for you to fall victim to you getting information and then just doing what it says.
Well, yeah. Like if I send an email to you from, let's say your mom, or I send an email to you from a friend or a coworker. Coworkers is a really, really easy one.
Yeah.
Just because you can go to LinkedIn and find out who everybody is at any organization, or most of the time. So I go to LinkedIn and I look up everybody that works at a company, and then I can see, okay, well, these people are all coworkers. I can start sending emails to each other from each other, and it looks like you guys know each other. So it's a really simple thing. Or people at home, genealogy sites are fantastic for hackers, because you go to a genealogy site, you just type in people's names, and you can find out all of their loved ones, relatives, and then start targeting from there. So then you can start sending emails on behalf of their mom to someone, and who doesn't trust an email from their mom?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why it's so important that we have you here today, because those are the things that people don't even realize, that they're an email from their mom should be trusted. A link that their mom sends should be something that they wholly don't have any negative thoughts about, but they need to be aware, like you said, it's not, you can't decipher anymore that it's something that's not from somebody trusted.
Yeah, and more importantly, like I can make my email look like it came specifically from your mom. It'll have the same, depending on how much research I've done, I can have your mom's exact email address, or I can have her name and a different address, but it's just slightly different and people won't even notice. So there's a million ways you can make these emails look very, very real, and people just go, oh, okay, that's my mom.
It is. Yeah, I learned that when I was very early on in like 2021, and I got an email from my cousin, and it said, look at this link. That's literally all the emails. So why would my cousin just tell me to look at a link? Like, if I would have thought about the email, would have made sense to me not to do it, but I just clicked on it.
Yeah, that's a really, check this out. Hey, check this out. That's a really popular one. Or, oh my God, this is so funny. That's another really popular one. And then it either has an attachment or a link, because you go, oh, okay, like it's short, it's to the point. And you just go, well, what's so funny? Click, and you're cooked.
And there it is. Yeah. Okay. No. Perfect. Thank you. So let's say open a phishing email and click on a link or open an attachment. How do I know if my computer has actually been compromised?
Well, there's the obvious, and that's if you get ransomware. So that would be so with ransomware, basically what happens, you click on a link, it takes you to a malicious site, or you open a, whatever, and you end up with malware on your computer. Well, the malware, once it's on your computer, the first thing it does, well, it does a lot of things, but in this scenario, it would go through and start locking you out of all of your files. Now, you wouldn't see that happening. You'd have no idea. Everything would just seem normal. And then all of a sudden, after a few hours, a little message pops up on your screen, and it says, hey, sucks to be you. You now have to pay some sort of ransom to have access to your files. And you go, wait, what? And you start to look at all your files, and every picture you ever had, every Word doc you had, every PowerPoint, everything is now locked. You have no access to any of those files. Basically, they're encrypted. And it says, okay, if you want to have access to that stuff ever again, you need to pay this small ransom fee. And then it gives you really detailed instructions on how you can go about paying this fee. And if you pay it, most of the time, they'll give you a key, and you can actually unlock those files. Not always. Sometimes the key doesn't work. Sometimes it's a mess, but most of the time they will. And so you go, okay, Now, the nice thing for that one is just have a backup. If you have a backup of all of your stuff, it doesn't really matter if you get locked out of it. You can always just restore the backup later. sometimes people go, oh, well, I'm not too worried. If I get ransomware on my computer, then antivirus wiped out. And the antivirus might be able to clean it up. But the damage that was done, antivirus doesn't undo that damage. So if you are locked out, you stay locked out. It's not going to unlock somehow magically. So that's the problem with ransomware. So in that scenario, to your question, if you have ransomware on your computer, you're going to know because it's going to tell you.
Yeah.
If you don't have ransomware, it's almost impossible. Like if you're a techie, you can watch for certain things. Like all of a sudden you can watch for network traffic leaving your computer and going outbound to weird sites in Russia, China, North Korea, places like that. And you go, oh, that looks suspicious. I can do that. But for an average person, years ago, it used to be, oh, my computer starts running slow. That's viruses on your computer. It's not going to run slow anymore. Computers are very fast now. They can handle the load of anything out there. Viruses are way smaller. They're way more sophisticated. So there's nothing like that. There's no obvious tell. So oftentimes you won't know until bad thing starts happening. I mean, like most of the time, what'll happen is suddenly you'll be locked out of an account. One of your account's passwords will change. And then within minutes, another account's password, another account's password. That's generally a really good sign your computer's been compromised. It's something starts happening that's very bad and it happens very rapidly. And that's the indication that I made a mistake.
Okay. That makes sense. Like you said, for the average person, it would take a while. Something very obvious is going to have to happen for them to know something's wrong.
Yep.
Is ransomware very common? Is that something that you see often?
Oh yeah. Ransomware is extremely, extremely common. It's one of it's mainstream now. I mean, that's what most people get when they get malware on their computer, is some sort of ransomware.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see here. If I have a good antivirus installed on my devices, can it protect me from phishing, domain spoofing, and malicious websites?
No. So antivirus, short, next question. No, that's just a bummer. No, so antivirus is one of those things where you absolutely should have it on every one of your computers. That's whether you have a Mac, whether you have a PC, doesn't matter. You should have antivirus on your computer because it's going to capture a lot of low-hanging fruit. It's going to capture a lot of the main things that are out there. And I absolutely, you're crazy not to have it. But I also equate it kind of like, I guess it's kind of like having a lock on your door at your house. Like if a criminal shows up, you probably want to have your front door locked. They check the lock and, maybe the average one's going to just walk away. But if a criminal really wants in, they're probably going to walk around the side of your house, smack the window, climb in through there, and now they're in your house. Like that's kind of antivirus. Like it's going to catch some of the stuff, but if a criminal's really working hard and makes something new, it's not going to have a signature for it, and it's probably not going to detect it. And then malware is going to end up on your computer. So you can't just hang your hat on, oh, well, I got the latest antivirus. I keep up to date every single day. Therefore, I can just click everything and not have to worry because sadly, that won't be enough. And sometimes people go, oh, well, I also have anti-malware because there's antivirus and anti-malware. Anti-malware is like Malwarebytes, for example, where antivirus should be something like Norton. So you can put those two together and that's great. But again, it doesn't stop everything. And criminals aren't stupid. I mean, like, for example, if I'm writing malware to try to break into something right now, first thing I do is I run it against software that I have that has these different antivirus software on there. And then I see, does it detect what I've written? If it detects what I wrote, I got to modify my code some more. So I keep modifying it, keep trying it. And then suddenly a version doesn't get detected. And I go, this is the one I'm going to use to go out and do my next thing. And just to be clear, I'm not a criminal. I'm not actually ripping anybody off. When I'm writing these things, it's to test clients who have paid me to test these clients. So just so people don't think I'm just like throwing random malware out in the universe and trying to hack random people.
We're not really in the business of promoting anything, but is there an antivirus or anti-malware that a consumer should, is there a specific kind or brand?
So just full disclosure, I'm a spokesperson for Norton LifeLock. So since I take money from them, obviously, yay, go Norton, go LifeLock. That's that. I mean, they're a great product, but the reality is they're all really, really similar. Before I was with Norton, I had used Norton, I had used McAfee, I'd used WebSense, I'd used Kaspersky, I'd used a number of them. And I've had good results with all of them. They all have different, pluses and minuses. If you get a good deal on one, maybe you go with that one. The one thing, like if I was going to say, okay, what differentiates antivirus when they are so very, very similar? And the reason I ended up being with Norton was they have a bigger footprint. So they have more people using their solution than any of the other ones, which means they're going to be faster at detecting when new things are showing up because they got a bigger footprint. It goes to reason as they see strange things, they can be working on signatures. That's, it's small, but it's something. But again, if you're getting some amazing deal on one of the other ones out there, I don't blame you. Take the amazing deal.
Yeah, no, I think that your first advice was the best one, right? Like if you, for your front door, you would, if you're trying to, the very minimum, you would lock it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. At the very minimum, you should have something like this to help protect you.
Yeah. And there's a number of them out there, go with the big name ones. You don't want to get some so there's some shady things that have been around very short amount of time. Do your research on them and make sure they're well-established companies. Other than that, it's just have something. And then on the anti-malware side, Malwarebytes seems to own the world. They're really good. I'm not tied to them in any way, but they're a good product and they've been around a long time. Be careful though. Make sure you're actually getting Malwarebytes. There's a ton of lookalike fake products that are actually malware, pretending to be Malwarebytes. So if you're going to go out and go like, oh, I'm going to download it, make sure you ended up at the right place.
That was actually my next question. Are there any red flags or things that people should look for when they're purchasing like an antivirus or malware? Because I hear that too, where they get something, they're like, oh, it actually caused the issue when it should have been helping me from this thing.
I'm not a big fan of ads. Be really, really cautious. If you're like at a website and an ad pops up, it's like, click here and get it for 50% off or whatever. Those ads, who knows who made them? Anybody can purchase ads and place them on any sites. It's really simple. And I can use a stolen credit card to do it. And then I could drive to a website that looks like that company, but it's actually some company I just made up that looks like them. Instead, like you're going to go to Norton, you would go to norton.com. You can just do basic research. You can do a Google search to find what the real ones are. If you do a Google search and you're looking for a specific one, remember things that say ad, like across the top or on the side, those are ads. Google does a terrible job of filtering those ads. And there's oftentimes malicious ads that get posted because, again, if I have a credit card, I can post any ads I want, even in a Google search engine. So take the actual results. If they have an ad written next to them, don't click on those. Go with the results themselves. Those, Google does a fantastic job of filtering to show legitimate companies in that area. Yeah,
that's really helpful because you do see all those ads and it makes you want to click on those first because they're the first ones that usually come up. So you think, oh, they all look the same. What could be the difference? That is the difference.
I see a lot. So we have clients, I was just dealing with one this morning where criminals will post the credit union's name with a login. So, like Acme Credit Union login page, and they make that an ad. So you go to do a quick search, like, oh, I need to go to their page. You type it in, it comes up right at the top and you just click on it without even thinking. It takes you to a website that looks just like the real credit union's website. So again, you want to make sure you're going to the legitimate site and you're not just clicking an ad that's taking you to God knows where.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Is there a way to tell that it's the legitimate site?
No.
Just really, asking. I just wondering if there's
sometimes people go, oh, let's start with HTTPS. So that must mean it's secure, which HTTPS means you have a secure connection. That's what that means. So like if I'm on my computer here and I connect to a computer, the website, wherever it is, if it has HTTPS, it means I have an encrypted session. So anything I communicate on that page will be encrypted. So if anybody was sitting on my network and trying to watch what I typed on the network, they couldn't see it to be a garbled mess. That is all HTTPS means. It doesn't mean the company's been validated. It doesn't mean there's any verified security, that they're legitimate in any way, shape, or form. So if you think that, oh, it said HTTPS, therefore I know I ended up at the real credit union, that doesn't mean anything. You're far better off when in doubt, again, going to Google and typing in the organization's name and seeing what comes up there. Another thing you can do is if it gives you the domain name, let's say the domain name came up and it said, acmewidgets.com. And that's where you're trying to go, is Acme Widgets. You could always put quotes around acmewidgets.com into the search engine as well on Google. And then it'll start showing you all the information about that domain. And there you'll see either like, it immediately shows you the website that's tied to it. And then underneath there's people talking like ads, or it shows you other things and reviews and whatever about that site. And you can go, okay, I feel pretty good about it. In some cases, if you put that in there and you put the quotes around it and you've got a weird site, the first thing you'll start seeing is people posting scam site, beware, this is suspicious, blah, blah, blah. And that lets you know, okay, something's not right here. A lot of times you can do that when you're going shopping. Let's say you come across a store somehow, because let's say you're searching for something, came up in the Google under their shopping section, it gives you a store, and you're like, man, this is a really good deal, but I've never heard of this store. Take whatever the domain is, whatever the website you're at, put quotes around it, put it into the Google search engine and see what comes up. And oftentimes you'll see people talking about, this site's such a scam, I paid money, I never got anything, blah, blah, blah. And it's a simple way to do your own research and figure out, is it legitimate?
It's really important because you just, like you said, it's easy to click, it's easy to find stuff. And so it's important. I really want our members to take away that they have to be actively engaged when they're going online and when they're looking at stuff and they're opening emails, because that's when you are caught off guard, right? That's when something unfortunate can happen, when you're just not.
And that is the key right there. I truly believe, I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how technical you are, I don't care how sophisticated you are, the right time, the right thing, the right moment, anybody will fall victim. And I'm convinced of that. And I mean, I've done it for a long time. I just from experience of working with people, I've had so many people that have fallen victims of scams that I talk to them and they're incredibly intelligent. And you talk, and later they go, oh my God, I can't even believe I fell for that.
Yeah.
But ... I was talking to, there was a producer called me yesterday. He had his Instagram account taken over. And he was like, it started out where he got a message through Instagram from an old friend. And apparently her account had been hacked. He didn't know this. And she's like, hey, something, will you, she wanted him to vote for her for something. And he's like, sure, okay. And she's like, okay, send me your number because I'm going to send you a link. I'm going to text you a link. And he goes, all right. So he sends her his phone number. She then texts him a link. And then it progresses and progresses. Next thing you know, his Instagram account's been taken over and now he can't get it back. And he's fighting like crazy to try to get it back. And he still hasn't got it back. And that's just like one example. And this is a smart guy who works in news, who every day is, I've literally done stories with him on scams. Yeah. And he fell victim. And he's just like, he was at a soccer game for his kid at the time when this was going on. And it's just like, you're distracted watching the game. And next thing you know, you're just click, 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 not even paying attention, and you're compromised. And that's what happens. It's just simple, easy mistakes at just the right moment.
Yeah, I have also been in banking for a very, very long time. And I think that's the biggest thing. It has nothing to do with intelligence or knowledge, or just if you catch somebody at the wrong time, sometimes they can make the wrong mistake.
Yeah, it's just luck. And they're doing it all day, every day. I mean, criminals, it's the greatest thing ever. They're just casting a net. It's just a shotgun approach. I'll send out thousands of these an hour, and all I need is just a small handful to make a mistake at any given time, and I'm killing it.
Yes. And I don't want anyone to fall victim to that. I understand. Okay, so I kind of took us off topic, but is there anything, going back to where we started, is there anything that members can do to really help protect themselves from phishing attacks? That's where we started.
Okay, yeah.
But I want to make sure there's nothing they can do to maybe help themselves.
The most important, like more than anything else, is when you receive an email from anybody, friend, loved one, coworker, business, before clicking the link, before opening the attachment, just stop and take a moment and go, okay, I got this. It looks interesting. Look at the link. If there's a link, take your mouse, hover over. So now your mouse is laying over it. When your mouse lays over it, it'll show you where it's really going. Because oftentimes it might say www.whatever.com. But if you move your mouse over it, it'll actually say something totally different. look and see what that says. If it says the same thing, if it says, hey, you're going to bestbuy.com and it still says bestbuy.com, you go, okay, you know, that's going to the same place. I can feel fairly confident I know where it's going. If on the other hand, it says some, you know, XY117, you know, -3.com, you might not know what that is. You might want to do a little more research before you click on it. It's to pay to, if you have unsolicited email from a friend or coworker, you can always just, you know, pick up your phone and just text them and say, well, what's this link? What did you just send me?
What'd you send me? Yeah.
Yeah. Did I cut out, by the way? I saw my
just a tiny bit. Yes, we lost you for just a second.
Yeah. See, something weird is happening with my internet. I'm probably being hacked right now, is what it is.
No, help. You'll know what to do.
Yeah, just turn the computer off. No, so yeah, so basically pay attention to the link, be really cautious about that. Text your friend or loved one and just say, did you send me this attachment? What is this? And see if they respond back. If they say, yeah, it's a picture of us together, you go, okay. If on the other hand, they say, I have no idea what you're talking about, you just avoided falling victim to it. Beyond that, you know, you can choose other devices to read email, like PCs and Macs are just horrific for viruses and malware. If you have a choice, use a different device. You know, they're terrible. So I mean, like really go to Chromebook. So just so you know the hierarchy of how this thing goes, PCs and Macs are like the worst. And everybody goes, oh, well, Macs are secure. They're way more secure than PCs.
Yeah.
That's true only because they're attacked less. They have like 10% of the market share that PCs do. So criminals don't write as many viruses and malware to attack them. They're still just as vulnerable. They've got all sorts of vulnerabilities that happen all the time. Both of them are garbage when it comes to security. The next level up would be tablets and mobile devices. They hold up very, very well. They're a lot more secure. You can read emails with those and feel pretty good. Where you run into trouble with those devices is through malicious apps. When you go out the app stores, if you're just installing every app you see, like install, and you're not paying attention to all the permissions that they're getting, that's where you run into problems, because the apps themselves that cause all the damage on those types of devices. So be really, really cautious. Every app you install, you got to think, why does it need these permissions? You know, if I'm installing an app to play a game, why does it need access to all of my pictures and all of my contacts and all of my email? Like, weird things like that should be suspicious red flags, and you might choose to get a different game. At the top of the spectrum, you get into Chromebook. Chromebooks, those things are almost bulletproof. There's a reason why they give like Chromebooks to all the high school kids. You know, high school kids, they're idiots. They're just yes, clicking everything. It just doesn't matter, right? So Chromebooks, man, they can just take a beating. So for example, my parents are getting older. They're smart, but they were starting to fall victim to a lot of these different scammers that were sending them emails and stuff. So finally, I just went over one day and swapped out. I just took their PC and I gave them a Chromebook. It's just like a PC for the stuff they're doing, web browsing, you know, emails, watching videos, basic stuff. So, you know, you can do Word docs, real simple things. A Chromebook is fantastic for that stuff. And they're just, you can open every attachment you want. You're probably going to be just fine. So if you have the choice, or if you have people that are, you know, clicking lots of emails or at risk, or just you don't need all of the power of a PC, get a Chromebook. They're relatively inexpensive. You can beat the crap out of them and you're probably going to be just fine.
Okay, that's good advice. Thank you. Okay, so you may have touched on it a little bit already. But can you give an example of how a criminal can target a person using social media? It's so used, it's so rampant.
Yeah. So I will tell you my favorite one.
Okay.
So let's say you have Facebook. Okay. So oftentimes, if I'm trying to scam a specific person, I'll immediately start going through all of their social media, where they have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you know, whatever ones I can find for that particular person. And what I'm looking for is, are they sharing photos publicly, which a lot of times people do. And so I'll start going through all their photos. And what I'm looking for is pictures of them with somebody else where they've tagged the other person. So let's say that you have a picture and it's you and a friend and you're at the beach, and, you know, it'll have a date because it always stamps whenever it was. You can see that. So now it's a picture of you, your friend, you're at the beach, and you tagged them in that thing. So now they're tagged somewhere else. So I click on the tag, and it takes me over to that person. And let's say that person's name, is Cindy Sue. So now I know you're friends with Cindy Sue. I know that you guys are at the beach. So what I do, I download that picture because it's publicly available. I take that picture, and now I send you an email on behalf of Cindy Sue. So the email's coming to you from Cindy Sue. I include the picture in the email, and then I write a little message and I say, oh my gosh, remember this day at the beach? This was so much fun. By the way, check out this link. I think this is really cool. And I send that email to you. When you receive that email, it comes from your friend. It's got a picture of the two of you together. I'm talking about something you did together.
Yeah.
Who's not clicking that link? Like, it makes it so simple. And I use that one, like when I have my go-to, I've got to hack into a person and I need to get their machine, I go to the social media avenue every time because it just works so well. So for those, I mean, the main things you got to worry about is, are you keeping all of your content private and not just making it publicly available, which is what you should do. You should only have it shared with your friends, people that are connected to you, and the rest of the time it should just be, everything's hidden. Now, let me be clear. Immediately, if you go look up Jim Stickley right now on Facebook, you're going to see I am not practicing what I preach by any stretch of the imagination. I've got lots of crap that you can see. What am I going to do? I don't, I can tell you best practice. I can't always live best practice. So just don't judge me. I'm just telling you that you should do it this way as best you can. If you are putting that stuff out there, just be aware though, if you receive emails and they contain things like pictures of you and a friend, that has not verified that that is now a legitimate email. So you have to keep that in mind. And that goes for any type of stuff when you're receiving those social media types of notifications. And I mean, on top of that, if you receive a social media message from somebody else, if somebody sends you a link or posts something, you have no idea if their account's been hacked or not. Be really cautious about clicking links, or even if someone messages you and says, hey, check this thing out, and they want you to download something, be cautious, because accounts get hacked all the time, and then criminals use those accounts to hack their friends.
I will say that you're a public person, which is one of the reasons we have you on here. And most of the members that are listening today or will watch this video later, they should have personal private networks on those social media outlets. Yeah. So I will say, although you don't always practice what you preach, I mean, for you, you want to be able to be reached by many people, and our members, they don't need necessarily public output.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. And I pick and choose what I share publicly and what I share privately. I have entirely different accounts that are completely not even under my name that I use for like really personal stuff. Yeah. But I know like that I am out there, and sometimes people have to be. And if you have businesses, a lot of times you have no choice to make everything public because you're trying to drive business. And so I understand it. Just know it can and will be used against you, and be prepared for it.
Very good. Okay. So I'm going to move us a little bit. So I keep hearing about malicious websites, right? We've talked about that a little bit already up to this point, and we didn't really talk about it, but typo squatting or domain spoofing. Yeah. What is those things? What is that? So
typo squatting is actually really popular, and it's such an unfortunate term. Every time I say it, I don't know, it just sounds gross. But typo squatting is where criminals buy up domain names. So, acmewidgets.com, they buy up domain names that are almost the same as the real domain, but they'll be one character off. And so, for example, if I was buying Acme Widgets, maybe instead of Acme Widgets, I'd replace the I in widget with an L. And you go, well, why would you do that? Well, if I was sending you an email and I wanted to pretend I was sending you the email from Acme Widgets, I could send it to you from Acme Widgets with an L in place of an I. And when you receive that email, that domain name is going to look the same, because a lowercase L looks just like an I. You won't even notice that it's anything different. So it gives criminals the ability to send emails that look identical to the real thing. Another thing I can do is that, again, we'll use Acme Widgets. If I had Acme Widgets and I was trying to go after, if that was something I want to go after their customers, instead of buying Acme Widgets and I was replacing the I would replace the I with an O in widgets. And you go, well, why would you have that? It doesn't make any sense. But if you look at your keyboard, the O is next to the I. People fat finger stuff all the time. So criminals will go out and they'll buy up domain names where it's one character off on the keyboard, with the basic idea of eventually people will just stumble into it. So it's kind of like, a spider putting up a web. Like, they're not going out and actively catching flies. They're just putting it up and they're hoping something's going to come by. And if I go to financial institutions and I do that with them, I know eventually people who think they're going to a financial institution are going to come to my site. I can make my site try to look like that financial institution. Or if I don't make it look like it, I can at least try to trick them into thinking they're going to something else. Like sometimes people will put up sites that'll say like, when the website comes up, they'll say, for your security, we need you to install this app before continuing. And people go to the page and they go, oh, apparently the financial institution I'm going to must have added this additional security. I must have to install this thing. And so they'll go through the motion of installing because they think they went to the right site. If you're typing, just make sure anytime you type a domain, check everything you type to make sure you didn't fat finger. Or if you hit enter and a site comes up and something feels off, like pay attention to that, because most of the time criminals won't have the site look exactly the same because it's a lot of work to make them look identical. They'll be close, they might have the logo and something else, but if all of a sudden the site you've been going to for all this time looks really different, stop before you start entering in login credentials, passwords, anything else, because it could be a bogus site that's just trying to trick you into stealing your personal information.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? If you have some type of intuition that's told you this is a red flag, just listen to it. It's okay.
So much that is probably the best advice that'll come out of this entire thing today. I have talked to so many people that either I was scamming or that have been victims of a scam. And so many times they go, I thought something was weird because of blah, blah, blah. But then I figured, and then they're hacked. And they like talk themselves out of that initial thing. If you have that lizard brain moment where that's that thing that just goes, something feels weird, trust it every single time. Don't just talk yourself out of it, because you're probably going to be right more times than not.
I feel like there's no consequence in trusting and taking a minute to, like you're talking, engage and look, verify, check. There's no cost to that, but there is a consequence, a cost to just powering through, like hoping for the best. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Like there's a cost to just hoping
and I will
it's
tell you,
best.
Criminals do their best. Like when I'm either calling people and trying to scam them over the phone, or when I'm sending emails, I try to make the emails as urgent as possible, to try to get people, or I try to make them as scary as possible, send them on behalf of the IRS, things that will freak people out, anything to get people knocked off their game and not thinking, where they react quickly. Phone calls are my best one, because I try to get them on a call and try to get them moving quick through so they don't have time to process what's happening. And I'm trying to keep them always on their heels. And for those things, if you get a call and something's, you just go, hold on a minute.
Hold on.
Yeah, like we're in no rush. Like, what are you talking about? Let me write this down. I'm going to call you back. What's your number? And something as simple as that throws a huge monkey wrench in all the work. So they go, oh, well, you can't call me. I don't care who it is. If it's that important, there should be a way that you can call them. And if you can't, odds are it's a scam.
If it's that important.
And if, like, for example, let's say, it's the credit union supposedly calling you. Okay, great. What's your name? What's your extension? I'm going to go ahead and call the main line. Then just pull your wallet out or your purse, pull out the debit card, look on the phone number on the back, call that number and get a human and go, okay, I got this call just now. What is this? And they're either going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to transfer you to that department, or they're going to go, yeah, we have no idea. That was a scam. So it's a really simple thing, but you eliminate all that risk. So that's scammers on phones. I mean, that's all they do all day, every day. So they're really, really good at it. And again, they just try to keep you off guard, to keep pushing you forward as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think that's why it's really important too that we do something like this, because unfortunately, whatever is happening now will change.
Always.
The technique behind it, how maybe the end game might look different, but that, like you're saying, the use of urgency or the use of a trusted friend, that's never going to go away, because they need that to make you fall victim.
Yeah, they'll always adjust, the scams every day. It's always, and some of them are cyclical. Like sometimes this is really popular and then something else becomes popular and then it comes back around. It's, really, I try to tell you, you just gotta be a little bit paranoid all the time. And it's sad, but that's the world we're in now. And it's a bummer, but you really, like, when I get an email, I just assume it's malicious until otherwise proven. Like, if
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
link or an attachment, I just start out with, that might be my mom, but I don't really know. I mean, she can be inviting me for dinner, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna wait on that one. Like, I just, I'm paranoid, and you have to be,
You
because
have to be, yeah.
the alternative is, if you click that link, and keep in mind, if you click a link, like sometimes people think, oh, well, on a website, for example, well, I got an email, I clicked the link, but once I got to the site, then I didn't do anything further. I closed my browser. And
Yeah.
so they go like, so I'm good. The problem is you're not. Google Chrome, the used browser in the world, Chrome they have like 15 zero-day vulnerabilities. This year, I think they've already had 4 or 5. A zero-day vulnerability is a vulnerability that is actively being exploited by criminals. No patch is available, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. If you browse to a malicious website that is exploiting a zero-day vulnerability, you will see a normal looking page. Everything will seem fine to you, and malware was being installed on your computer while you're looking at whatever you think you're looking at, and you'll have no idea it's happening. And that's the scary thing, and why people ultimately have their computers get compromised, is because they have this concept of, oh, well, if I click the link, I still have to do something more. I'll have to hit next, 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 or install, or I have to do something. Just going to the website won't hurt me. And that's just not the case. Literally just going to the website can be all it takes to get malware on your computer.
Yeah, that's all they need, is that one moment of
Yeah, just hitting the
misthought.
website. Yeah, or same thing with opening attachments. People go, oh, it's just a PDF file. They open up a PDF. I mean, Adobe Acrobat, which is what most people use for PDF files, that is a train wreck of a product. My God, they have a new vulnerability like every other month, and
Yeah.
they're terrible. And so, again, you think you're just getting a document from a coworker, and it's just got, text, and you open it up, and it just looks like a Word or a Microsoft, or I'm sorry, an Adobe PDF file.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's actually got malware embedded in it that you don't even see happening. It's installing something bad on your computer.
It's good to know that those kind of everyday products that we think of, or that we're using, that we're used to, that's the point, right? Again, you need to be engaged to know where it's coming from. Why are you getting it? Do you need it? Should you be clicking on it? Because if not,
and
there's a
it's so
problem.
hard. I mean, because who doesn't receive? I mean, I receive PDF files from our attorneys. I receive them from coworkers. I receive them all day long, every day.
Yeah.
So how do you know, like, well, this one's good and this one's bad? And I get it. Like, it's really easy for me to say, be paranoid, don't click anything. And then you go to work the next day, or you get home and you receive stuff from, you're working on your mortgage, or you're doing this, and you receive the stuff all day long, and you go,
Yeah.
what the heck am I supposed to do here? And it's not easy. Again, that's why I go back to, like, I don't have stock in Chrome, but or Google, but I should,
Right.
because I love Chromebooks. Go back, get a Chromebook. Even use your phone. Like, if you receive a PDF file or a Word doc or something you're not sure, open it on your phone. You're going to be way better off than opening it on a PC.
Yeah, that's the thing too. People are getting things that are malicious both at home and at work. So you just have to be cautious of those things everywhere.
Yeah, and especially now, people at home get targeted more, because criminals realize more people are working from home. And if you're working from home, I can target you there. And then oftentimes you might have a VPN connection from your home to your work. So I can then use your hacked computer at your house to now VPN through to your work. So now I can hack not only you, but also your work. So criminals are kind of getting, to get 2 bites at the same apple.
I know. Okay. So if I just browse to a malicious website accidentally, am I okay if I don't install anything? That's what you just covered.
No, you're cooked.
It's not. It's no go. We talked about antivirus. I had that question here. Can it protect me from phishing, domain spoofing, and malicious websites? And the answer is
no. I mean, it helps. I mean,
it helps. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like wearing a mask.
Right.
Is it keeping you safe? It probably helps, but it's definitely not preventing it completely.
Yeah, exactly. Can you explain the dark web? I think we all hear that, but what does that even mean?
Yeah, the dark web's freaking cool. So the dark web, first of all, is not illegal. Everybody has this idea that the dark web's illegal. The dark web was designed originally to allow people to have some sort of anonymity. I always screw the word up. Anonymity. Anonymous. I like that. We're gonna go with that. And that's
anonymous. Yeah.
Because every time I try to say it, I butcher it. But basically, it was designed so that, let's say that you're in some country that has a really oppressive government, right? And so you want to get the word out though to other people. On the dark web, you could go there and you could post something and it wouldn't trace back to you, because the dark web is all about right now, like right now on this thing, Zoom, the thing we know are on, has everybody's IP address. They get that by default. When you connected in, they know your IP. So now they can track certain things from you. They know a lot about you, and they can kind of monitor what you're doing. That's just the way it is for any website you go to. That's how it works. When you're on the dark web, you don't have an IP address that you can be tracked back to. You're hopping through a million hops, and so it can't trace back to you. Now you use a totally different web browser. It's called Tor, T-O-R web browser. It's free. It's just like having any of the other major web browsers out there. It's not malicious. It's not bad. It's just a Tor web browser. You get this web browser, and that allows you to now be able to browse on the dark web. Now, unlike the regular web, there's no search engine. There's no Google that you can go to on the dark web and say, hey, I want to do whatever. You either have to know it exists or go through the regular internet, just through standard internet, and try to find people who are talking about dark websites. Dark websites always end with .onion. So when you're hunting around, you can go to these .onion sites through your Tor browser. And there's good sites out there. I mean, you can even, Facebook has a dark website. I mean, there's legitimate ones out there, but criminals realized, well, wait a minute, if I can be anonymous and I can communicate with somebody else who can be anonymous, this is a pretty cool way we could do some really bad stuff. So now you have sites that have sprung up all over that are very similar to a look and feel of Amazon, where one site will have all these vendors, and each vendor is offering different things. So if I want drugs, there's vendors that sell drugs. If I want to have stolen information, I can go to those vendors. If I want to take a hit out and have somebody killed, there's people that do that. Like anything you can imagine is in these vendor sites. And it's even to the level where they have reviews and ratings where people will be like, oh, hey, this place is really great. I don't know. Hey, he killed my wife really good. I mean, I don't know, like,
yes, just crazy things.
Crazy things. And it's nuts. And because you can use things like Bitcoin, there's no cash that's exchanging hands to a person. So if I want to steal someone's stolen identity, I can go to the dark web, I can pay a couple bucks, and I can buy someone's identity, and now I can use that identity, become them, and go and rip them off. And that's where things have gotten crazy, because everything's out there. So if I'm a hacker and I hack into a corporation and I steal a database that has 100,000 records with names, social security numbers, addresses, all this stuff, well, as a hacker, I'm not an identity thief. What am I going to do with it? Well, in the old days, I wouldn't be able to do anything. Now I can take that, throw it on the dark web, and somebody else will buy that whole big thing. And then they'll start selling down in smaller chunks. So finally, identity thieves will buy maybe 10 or 20 of those records at a time for a few bucks. And they'll then use those to go and rip those people off. So it's become this massive ecosystem where all these people, I mean, it's huge e-commerce, but it's all very, very illegal. And it's a booming business.
Yeah, I had no idea. I really didn't know what the dark web was. Like you said, I think I thought whatever conclusion I had of it.
It's really, really interesting. And I mean, if you've never checked it out, you probably should, just because it's just a weird world to see, because it's something so different than anything. Like when you start browsing through these sites and everybody's so matter of fact about all this criminal activity, it's just weird.
Weird. Yeah. So weird.
Yeah, it's like out of a movie almost. It's really crazy.
Well, it does bring me into the other thing I really wanted to ask you about, which is you talked about Bitcoin a little bit, but I want to kind of let people know what cryptocurrency is. Like, I feel like that's we hear that word all the time, but like, what is that?
Sure. So cryptocurrency, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to do justice on the definition. It's currency, if you will, but it's digital, and it's I don't know how. I mean,
it's hard.
Yeah, and my problem with like Bitcoin or Ethereum, I treat it much like I would treat a Beanie Baby. I think that it's one of these things that is has no real tangible value at this point in time. It's just speculative. And it's cool because you can buy stuff with it and trade with it, but the values, bounce so rapidly. I mean, right now you look, and Bitcoin has just been free falling. I haven't looked to see where it is today. And by the time people are watching this video later, maybe it's back up again. But
Right.
it can yo-yo. So it's really difficult to use it to actually in commerce, because today it might be worth half of what it's worth tomorrow. So if you bought a pizza with some of your Bitcoin and tomorrow it's worth a car, you're going to be pretty irritated.
Yes.
So it makes it difficult. Now there is stuff called stable coin. Stable coin is supposed to be tied back to the US dollar. However, again, as we're filming this right now, stable coins have been taking a beating and have been like 30 cents on the dollar, which is not supposed to even happen. And it is. So um, digital or cryptocurrency is here to stay. It's going to be something that everybody will in some way use in the future. Things like Walmart are talking about creating their own stable coin where you'd be able to make purchases. And if you tied it back to retail items, well, then it kind of does have some sort of monetary value to it, because now this is worth whatever in Walmart merchandise. There's an actual tangible value. So it'll be around for a while. It does have a lot of risks. It's easy to have your key stolen. If you lose your key or if it's stolen, you no longer have access to your remote stuff, or if somebody else gets your key, they'll steal it from you and it's just gone and there's no bringing it back. So there is definitely risks, but it's interesting. Again, I should have bought it when I could have got it for pennies on the dollar. I wasn't smart enough to see that one, that it would ever be worth anything. And boy, was I wrong.
People are saying that about those. What did you say you compared it to?
Beanie Babies.
Beanie Babies right now, right?
Are people still buying Beanie Babies?
Yes.
No, they're
and they're
not.
still worth something.
No, they're not.
I think they are. I think that's still a thing.
The Princess Di Beanie Baby. And
you missed out on that. You missed
I
out
don't
on
think I
that.
missed anything. I'm feeling pretty good about my choice on that one. Made up markets always confuse me.
I know that one was really hard for me. I wanted to talk about it because it was one that I can't always, like you said, it's not tangible. I can't always describe it to members. Do you think that there are risks to the credit unions and their members as we start looking at more cryptocurrency?
I mean, again, the main risk really comes down to keeping, it's a vault. They call them vaults. It's keeping your keys secure. There's been organizations where people stored their cryptocurrency that had a breach, and all of the cryptocurrency, $1 billion or hundreds of millions of dollars is just gone instantly. Right. And it's just gone. Like there's no getting that back. And that's not going to be something that the FDIC is going to step in and say, oh, we'll give it back to you because it's insured. You're just out. So there's definitely risk associated with it. Gotcha. I think over time, there'll be more regulation will come in. There'll be more to help people. But yeah, there's risk at every level. I mean, because the same with credit unions. Credit unions are helping people store it. I mean, like I work with online banking, and we're talking about integrating this into online banking, which is great. But if wherever the company is has a breach that's holding the stuff, is the credit union then somehow responsible to get it back? Like there's a lot of gray areas and a lot of what ifs and maybes right now. So I think it's coming. I think it's incredibly interesting what it is and what it could do in the future. But I think we're still in the early stages and there is still a lot of questions to be answered.
Okay. That actually does lead me into my next question though. For us personally as an institution, we see a lot of fraud when our members give out their online banking information, right?
Weird.
I know we're seeing a lot of it. Do you have advice for anyone on?
Yeah, don't give out your online banking information.
Yeah, that's the big, no, it's so, I mean, it seems so simple, but I think it's really important for our membership to know that under no circumstance should you feel comfortable giving out your online banking information. Like we already have it, so we would never need it. And nobody else in the whole wide world needs access to your online banking information.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag. If somebody's asking for it, and if you really are dying to give it to them, call the credit union first and just say, hey, this whoever is asking for this, can you help me out? And they're either going to say, oh, okay, that turns out that is legitimate. Maybe it's like you're trying to do a wire because you're buying a house or something like that. Yeah. And they can help you in that kind of scenario. Otherwise, don't just wing it and just don't go, oh, it probably will be fine, because it probably won't be.
I think that's really good advice, Jim. And I hadn't thought about saying that out loud, but anytime you have a red flag of something to do with your finances, you should call your credit union. You should ask us what's going on, if that makes sense, because we can tell you like, no, don't do that. Or, because of this.
Yeah, one of the perks of being with a credit union is the fact that you guys are way more hands-on with your members. Like you guys are really there to help them. I mean,
Yeah,
why not take advantage of it?
absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree. That's such good advice. Um, it leads me into the other question, which I know you will, it's a leading question, but does any legitimate business ever need your mobile login or password information?
I mean, I've seen cases with Intuit where they'll do something with like direct connect or something like that. It's rare. And again, and there's another one too. I can't think of it. There's a handful that do some level of that,
Okay.
but I don't do any of them. I'm paranoid. I don't want to give my account information to anybody, especially
Yes.
login and credentials. There's just too much risk for me personally.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them out there. Again, before you ever do anything, real conversation, super savvy and exactly what credit union, just eliminate the risk factor there, because in more, 9 times out of 10, it's probably gonna be a scam.
Yeah. We lost you a little bit. There was a little bit of disconnection,
Oh,
but the end
great.
result, I know the
Yeah.
end result is call us, right? Jim,
Yeah.
you call your credit union if you're worried about anything.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's just go with that. I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening to my internet. It's
No,
so
it was
irritating.
just a little bit in a minute. I have just one more question for you, and then we'll look at the questions from the members.
Okay.
What is your advice on password and using password manager apps?
I mean, if have a unique password to every site you ever go to, never
Yep.
use the same password twice. And to do that, you generally use some sort of password manager app so you can remember them all. You don't want to write down 100 passwords on a piece of paper. You don't want to store them in Notepad on your computer. Password managers, there's a million of them out there. Most antivirus solutions even offer them as part of their solutions. And then you can just basically store them in there. They work pretty well. I mean, obviously the risk is if you put a password on that, you lose that password, someone gets that password, they could have access. I like the ones that are not cloud-based. I like the ones that are stored on your phone or on your computer that are still encrypted, as opposed to the ones that are cloud-based where the cloud gets hacked and your stuff will be hacked. So,
Okay, that's a big one. We have passwords for everything.
yeah.
All right, Jim, I'm gonna look to see what questions we have. I think we just have one question.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Is it possible for my computer, tablet, phone to be hacked from my smart TV?
Okay.
It's really the only smart appliance I have.
Yeah. So probably not is the best answer. So smart TVs, they've had a couple of vulnerabilities through the years. In every case that I know of, the criminal had to have physical access to the device to begin with. I haven't seen anywhere they could hack into your TV remotely. So if a criminal has physical access to your TV, odds are they've got a lot more access to everything else in your house, and you're in way worse shape than you realize. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. That now, devices in general, any internet thing device does have risk associated with it. And if a criminal can get access to that device, they could use that device to then try to attack other devices. But a smart TV specifically, the risk is extremely low. I mean, extremely low.
I was just putting my information in if
There you go.
anybody needs it. I'm going to also unmute everybody, Jim, just to make sure everyone gets a chance to ask their questions, if they have any. Let's see here.
Or they can type them in. Either way.
Okay. Well, I think that you provided such amazing information, Jim. We may not have any questions. Oh, here we go. Just a thank you.
I'll take it. All right. No, my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me tonight.
Thank you, Jim. It was awesome. You always give the best information just in the credit union. We obviously really appreciate you. And I know that our members are going to appreciate the information that you give. And I appreciate everyone's time this evening, yours included. I know it's time that they give away from their families and stuff. So I always just want to say thank you. So thank you again, Jim. We appreciate you.
No problem. You have a great night.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.